condition, in our present abilities, they say, and most of the people who claim these things are atheists, they are godless, and they do not subscribe, they do not believe in God, they do not believe in His words. And so when they confront a Christian, when they meet a Christian and argue with a Christian, and the Christian, let's say, says that I know the truth, God is truth, they will suddenly turn hostile and say, how dare you say you know the truth? How dare you say you can be certain? That's the kind of culture we are living in these days. That's the kind of mindset people have these days. They romanticize doubts. And there are generations of young people today who would choose to rather be uncertain and in doubt rather than know the truth. But thanks be to God, in our church, we claim and we believe and we can prove that we have the truth. In our church, we are not groping in the dark. We are not blindfolded here. We are not throwing the dice and hopefully it would turn out okay. We're not crossing our fingers here. We're not knocking on wood. We absolutely know the absolute truth. God is not a lie. God is real. God is true. The words of the Bible are not myth. These are not legends. These are not hearsays. This is God's word. This is the truth. And these are the words that we believe in, and this is the Bible that we live our lives by and conform our behaviors and pattern. We thank God because God has placed us in God's true church. We used to be uncertain. We used to be in doubt. We used to be in darkness. But not anymore. We are now in the kingdom of the Son He loves. And let this truth be your greatest assurance. Let this be your greatest source of comfort, that you are in a church that is true, and that you are serving a living, true God. But then again, it begs the question, how can we be so sure that our teachings, that our doctrines, and our faith is true? I'm going to give you 4 major reasons why your faith, why your teachings and doctrines are true in the church. Number 1, the revelations of God are fuller these days. The revelations are fuller today, meaning they are more complete. They are more complete. They are more open than the previous times. The revelations are fuller today. We need to understand that God is a revealing God. And since God is the source of truth, or the absolute truth, therefore, truth can be known, truth can be understood, and truth can be lived by. That's the basic argument why we can be certain that God is true and serving God is true. Because God has revealed Himself. Without God revealing Himself, without God showing Himself, there's no way we can be able to understand Him. A person can be scholarly, intelligent, educated, but no amount of human education can be able to really understand the reality of God. God has to show Himself. God has to make that first step to reveal Himself to you. Without God revealing Himself to you, without God communicating His thoughts and His hearts to you, there is no way in our sinful state we can be able to know Him. And God has revealed himself through various ways and means. He is a very artistic communicator. He knows how to communicate who he is, his heart and his mind and his program to his creation. Romans chapter 1 verses 19 and 20. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know God. You don't need to have a theology degree to know there's God, to understand truth, because the truth about God is made very basic. It is very elementary. It is very plain. It is easy as ABC. And as, the popular advertisement says, even a caveman can understand God. Even a caveman can know God. You don't need to be scholarly. You don't need to be, a brainiac to understand God, because the knowledge of God is plain. It is intuitive. It's part of who you are. In fact, we ourselves are the greatest evidence for God, because God has created us according to His image and likeness. We did not come from single-cell organism. We came from the very Creator Himself. He fashioned us. He created us. He made us with fear, with perfection. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. Look at it in verse 20. Since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities. You see, God is invisible. But His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen. So even though God is invisible, yet His nature is shown, His nature is exposed. It says there, the divine power and nature of God have been clearly seen. It is understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse. So atheists and those people who deny and reject God are actually living their lives without any reason at all. It is inexcusable. You can know God. You can understand God. And you can be able to love the Lord. All the things that we see around us, nature, the trees, the plants, the fish, the animals, the mountains, the planets, our entire universe and galaxy, all of these things that we can see with our naked eyes are actually evidences and proofs of the reality of God. In Acts 14 and 17, and then jumping to chapter 17, verses 26 and 27, we can see here that God has revealed Himself also through human events. Through human events. And we can see that God is present in human history. When you open up history books, when you study history and all that happened in the past, you can see God's invisible providence. Look at these words. Yet He has not left Himself without a testimony. You see, God always has a testimony. God has always someone and something to tell us that He is there. So no one can accuse God of being an absentee God. Oftentimes when we are in pain, sometimes when we are hurting, we ask where God is. Oh God, where